This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch on this Friday, October 31st. I'm Ephraim Graham. We're going to begin this half hour with news from the Middle East. Massive crowds of Jewish people blocked the entrance to Jerusalem for hours Thursday. They were protesting a proposed law as 11 deceased Israeli hostages now remain in Gaza. This comes after Hamas returned another 2 bodies. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more on our top story from Jerusalem.
Tens of thousands of ultra-Orthodox Jewish men, known as Haredim, took to the streets, prayed, and blocked the entrance to Jerusalem for hours Thursday. They were protesting a proposed law to draft religious students into the army and the government's arrest of Haredi draft dodgers. One young man fell to his death after climbing to the top of a crane, and hundreds clashed with police.
It is not worth it to fight with each other. We are all for the Torah. We are all the children of the Creator of the world in this country, and we all need to be one people. We are all a family.
Military service in Israel is mandatory, except for the ultra-Orthodox who are exempt. That causes great political and social friction here in Israel, especially now after 2 years of war.
And I'm here today on behalf of all the reservists, all the soldiers, all the people who were injured in this war, all the families who lost their beloveds, to tell my brothers, the Haredim, join us. There is no contradiction between serving in the army and serving the Torah and studying Torah.
Later on Thursday, Hamas returned 2 more bodies of murdered hostages. Amiram Cooper, 84, one of the founders of Kibbutz Nir Oz, was kidnapped and murdered in captivity. Sachar Baruch, 25, from Kibbutz Be'eri, was taken from his mother's home when terrorists raided it. They murdered him later during an IDF rescue attempt. The bodies of 2 Americans are among the 11 remaining in Gaza. Those bodies should have been returned in the first part of the recent deal 18 days ago.
The combination of the determination of the political leadership and the resolute actions of our wonderful soldiers and commanders has led to the crushing of the Iranian Axis to bring back all our living captives.
Meanwhile, tensions are rising between Israel and Lebanon, with reports that the ceasefire is in danger of collapsing. Israel has been carrying out frequent targeted strikes against Hezbollah terrorists as they try to rearm and rebuild their infrastructure in violation of the understandings between Israel and Lebanon. According to the agreement, Lebanon is required to disarm the Iranian proxy Hezbollah, which has been slow going. However, the Lebanese army has not confronted the Israeli military. But in a sign of a shift, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun reportedly instructed the army to confront any Israeli incursion into southern Lebanon after a municipal worker was killed there. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar met with the UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Janine Hennis. He wrote on X, Hezbollah, with Iran's support, continues to intensify its efforts to rebuild and rearm. This is dangerous for Israel's security, just as it is for Lebanon's future. Israel cannot bury its head in the sand in the face of this trend. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is joining us now to continue our coverage. So, Chris, do you expect the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel to last? And if not, what's going to happen next?
Well, Ephraim, it doesn't seem like it's going to last right now. And I think there's 2 different views of actually what the ceasefire means. For Hamas, it means a hudna, an Islamic term that means they can rearm and regroup and to fight another day. And obviously, Israel and the United States see it quite differently. It doesn't look like the ceasefire is going to at the last. Hamas continues to probe against Israeli forces along what's called now the yellow line. So what comes next? It looks like there may be a time after the patience of President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu run out that the IDF actually may have to go in to disarm Hamas, which is part of the 20-point plan. Hamas doesn't seem like they will disarm, want to disarm. So it looks like the ceasefire may not last long term, and it looks like perhaps the IDF is the only force capable of actually going ahead and disarming Hamas and then looking forward to a post-Hamas Gaza. We'll see if that happens. And then there would the stabilization force would come in, but that could be weeks, months away, Ephraim.
All right. Chris, you delivered a message to a group of pastors this week. What can you share about your message to them?
Well, what we shared is after 2 years, Israel really has been under a great assault, and not only, especially in the information war. And the message was to many of these pastors that Israel has done what it could in the last 2 years to defend itself and also to protect the people of Gaza. Also talked about how Israel is fulfilling prophecy. There's a convergence of prophetic movements happening in Israel right now, especially one of the things is that Zechariah the prophet talked about all the nations coming against Israel. We see that unfolding before our eyes, as well as many other things are happening in Israel. And also an encouragement to these pastors to stand with Israel, even against the assault of so many attacks against Israel and the Jewish people, especially on social media.
Christian Zionism has come under attack. Tell us exactly what that is and some of its history.
Well, it really is coming under attack, and Christian Zionism simply is the understanding that that God has His plan on the Jewish people. We see prophecy unfolding, the return of the Jewish people back to Zion, which is another word for the word Jerusalem. So that has a long history as well. You can go back to the Lord Balfour, the famous 1917 Balfour Declaration that says that His Majesty's government, the British government, views with favor the establishment of a Jewish homeland in the land of Palestine. And so that has a long history, goes back even a few hundred years before that. Pat Robertson was a prominent Christian Zionist, the founder of CBN, and many other Christians around the world believe that that we are seeing God's unfolding plan. So it's important to stand with the Jewish people. That one of the scriptures they look at is Genesis 12:2-3. For those that bless Israel would be blessed; those that curse Israel would be cursed. But right now, that whole idea is under attack. It's being called a heresy, but it's rooted in the Bible. And so that's what's happening. But it has a long history of people supporting, Christians supporting the people of Israel and the establishment of a Jewish state after 2,000 years.
Less than 30 seconds, but what can you tell us about what we can expect this evening on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, we have a story about Oracles of God. That's CBN's film about the New Testament. It's an amazing film, directed and written by Aaron Zimmerman. It's going to be in theaters this coming, I say, November 2nd. 3rd and 4th, I believe. So, but that we did a whole program in Jerusalem Dateline just on that film. It's a great film, and I think people would really love to see it.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, we appreciate your insights. Looking forward to checking back in with you come next week. I want to remind you at home that you can get Jerusalem Dateline at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on the CBN News channel. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, and it's available on YouTube. Millions of Americans stand to lose food benefits tomorrow as the government shutdown continues here in the United States. President Donald Trump has called for Republicans to change Senate rules to allow a vote to open the government again. Dale Hurd is on the story.
Nearly 42 million Americans receiving food assistance under the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, will lose those benefits tomorrow if Congress can't agree on how to keep the program going or reopen the government. Overnight, President Trump called on Republicans in Congress to change the rules in the Senate to again open the government with a simple majority vote, instead of the 60 votes currently needed, the so-called nuclear option. Trump posted on Truth Social, because of the fact that the Democrats have gone stone-cold crazy, the choice is clear. Initiate the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster, and make America great again. Conservatives have long opposed getting rid of the filibuster because they believe it could open the door to bad legislation in the future, and Republicans don't seem to have the votes to do it anyway. Almost 1.4 million federal workers have already gone without pay, and more than 750,000 are on furlough. Air traffic controllers are going on their 6th unpaid week, and that could lead to massive travel disruptions. Meanwhile, food banks across the country have scaled up efforts to help those in need of food assistance.
We're treating this just like a hurricane where we're going to step in. It will be a challenge, but we're up to the task as we have been before.
However, 27 states have so far announced they will step up and provide some level of funding for SNAP benefits and food pantries. On Capitol Hill, the Democratic push to extend Obamacare medical subsidies is still the major sticking point. putting other programs like SNAP at risk. Some Democrats have said other money can be used to fund SNAP.
Some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund, but the truth is there's no legal mechanism to do it.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said the Democrats holding out over health care is not a partisan issue, but a moral one.
Republicans have the nerve to admit before the American people that ripping away SNAP benefits from 16 million children in this country and more than 1 million veterans is a pressure tactic designed to get the Congress to continue to gut the health care of the American people.
We're happy to talk about health care policy. We're happy to talk about tax policy. We're happy to talk about regulatory policy, but not at the point of a gun. You do not get to take the American people's government hostage and then demand that we give you everything you want in order to pay our air traffic controllers.
And Vance has pleaded for what he called 5 reasonable Democrats to step up and help Republicans stop the shutdown. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Here's a quick look now at some of the other stories making headlines in the CBN newsroom at this hour. A JetBlue flight from Cancun to New Jersey was diverted Thursday. The plane suddenly lost altitude, forcing the pilot to make an emergency landing in Tampa, Florida. Several passengers were injured and were treated at area hospitals. The FAA is investigating what caused the plane to unexpectedly dip in the sky. We're following cleanup after Hurricane Melissa made landfall in Jamaica. The Category 5 storm moved in with winds of 185 miles an hour. At least 50 people died in Jamaica, and the death toll is expected to rise. Several organizations are preparing relief efforts for the affected areas, including our Operation Blessing. And you can go to ob.org for more information on how you can help with those efforts. Coming up, some experts are concerned about cyber attacks and other potential threats with the upcoming election. We've got details for you next. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Security experts are concerned about cyber attacks, misinformation, and even physical violence as we move closer to next week's elections. While off-year elections aren't usually a target, this year is shaping up, they say, to be an exception. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke shows us why.
America's threat environment is now considered to be highly volatile given recent events and divisive political issues. Experts warn these conditions create an opening for bad actors, both foreign and domestic, to undermine Tuesday's elections.
We will likely see online content that's intended to inspire and facilitate violent or destructive activities that would benefit the efforts of these foreign hostile powers to sow discord, undermine confidence in our democratic institutions, and even inspire violent activity.
Homeland Security expert John Cohen with the Center for Internet Security, or CIS, warns states getting national attention are especially at risk.
The playbook used by our adversaries, particularly Russia, China, Iran, foreign terrorist groups, will be to look at those issues that are most divisive, that are causing the most turbulence in American society, and they'll seek to exploit those by creating and pushing out content online that's intended to exacerbate the polarized, divisive nature of our public discourse.
Cyber attacks, now a critical weapon used by our adversaries, according to a recent CIS election threat analysis.
We see government organizations, including election organizations, being targeted for phishing campaigns where emails that are intended to encourage the recipient to click on a link, which then introduces malware or technical capabilities that will either allow the hacker to access information that they then use in a information campaign to undermine credibility of the election, or even impact the operations of those systems.
Cohen points out the highly polarized nature of American society is a major root of the problem.
An increasing number of people in our society believe that violence is an acceptable way to express their ideological or political views or their opposition to the views of others.
Meanwhile, Capitol Hill lawmakers arguing about how to stop this violence, often adding to the dangerous rhetoric.
I'm worried that if we're just going to use the violence that we all abhor to get into an argument about whether it's more left or more right, we kind of lose the point that it's all to be condemned.
We are faced with only two paths. Either we confront this political violence and end it, or it will end us.
Experts urge voters to be skeptical about online reports these next few days and rely instead on trusted, verified sources. Meanwhile, election officials on all levels, along with law enforcement, are advised to evaluate any cyber vulnerabilities and be prepared for potential disruptions both on and offline. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, the making of the latest CBN film, Oracles of God, the story of the New Testament. Stay tuned for a fascinating look at the challenges of shooting in a war zone and see how this all-Jewish cast and crew, along with biblical locations, contribute to the authenticity of this powerful film. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. CBN Film's latest release, Oracles of God, the story of the New Testament, presents evidence for the greatest story ever told. Just 2 days before filming was set to begin, Hamas invaded Israel. Chris Mitchell joins us again and takes us on a behind-the-scenes look at how the production team persevered through war and even found joy in the process.
With production plans complete, the crew prepared for the cameras to roll. Then war broke out.
In 2023, we were all set to go with the New Testament, stayed the whole summer, did all the pre-production, and we were set to start filming on October 9th of 2023. As we all know now, 2 days before that came October 7th, and that just horrific attack by Hamas on Israel. So we had to shelve the project. We came back last year in 2024 to do it. And for a movie that has a lot of Jesus and the apostles, of course we wanted to shoot in the Sea of Galilee. Wouldn't you know, Hezbollah felt like coming down and saying hello when we were filming in the Galilee.
Hardship turned into a story about faithfulness and teamwork on and off camera in order to take the audience back nearly 2,000 years. The film anchors its trust in early Christian voices.
We have this tremendous gift with the New Testament that we didn't have in our Old Testament movie, and this gift is called the Church Fathers. This generation of Christians that was 1 or maybe 2 generations removed from the apostles. Some of them were even actually direct students of the apostles, so they heard all of these stories firsthand. So I went back to the source.
Aaron explores why John would write his book decades later.
You have to remember, John's gospel was written around AD 90, about 30 years after the rest of the apostles. So he read the first 3 gospels and decided he had to write his own. So we explain why, but you'll have to watch the movie to see it.
Through sirens and schedule changes, scripture turned into script.
It was an enormous privilege to have an entirely Jewish cast and crew. And at one point, they looked at each other and they said, why don't we ever hear these stories in school? These are amazing.
I feel like telling more and more spiritual stories like this story and to give more light in these very dark times, it's a huge privilege.
That's where you're crucified. Okay. And you know that, but they don't.
There was this moment of, really, in the end, we're acting, but of lashings and blood and the crown, and suddenly I thought about the crucifixion, I thought about Jesus.
Stand by!
Father! I thought about the crucifixion itself, and that moment when Jesus is crucified is simply something that is etched. I think there's no person in the world for whom that image isn't etched in their mind.
Time, set, action!
You know, I've been working with the same crew for about 8 years, I would say. And there was such joy and unity on this set. We enjoyed every second.
7th of October. Almost all of us lost the joy. I personally lost my joy. I lost it completely. And I don't know why this production gave me back the joy.
We got a close-up of him putting his hand, and we put the fake nail.
I'm going to do wounds and cuts and beating. And suddenly in this production, it became art again.
Even though war caused issues, it couldn't stop God's timing. spiritual hunger has led to resurgence in the Bible, especially among the young. Aaron's been watching the numbers.
You were citing actually some statistics from back in 2024 where Bible reading is actually exploding. Tell us why this film kind of hits this the growing hunger for knowing about what's in the Bible.
Both in the U.S. and the U.K., millennials and Gen Z are really leading the way in Bible reading and going back to church. But even last year, 2024, there was a 22% increase in Bible sales over 2023, which is really interesting because for the rest of books, it was only a 1% increase.
Oracle satisfies the hunger from the place where it all began.
That CBN decided to film the film in Israel, in Jerusalem, in the Sea of Galilee, in the authentic locations, Mount of the Beatitude, deserts. It gives the film a special look, and it's very authentic.
I feel like this is everything that Jesus wanted us to know when he left. You know, we didn't have the privilege of walking with him in the Galilee. We didn't have the privilege of being in the Old Testament and hearing the audible voice of God booming down at us. What we have is the Holy Spirit, and we have this Bible, this final love letter. So to me, it's the most important piece of writing that can be in our lives.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Oracles of God, the story of the New Testament, is in theaters nationwide for 3 days only. That's November 2nd, 3rd, and the 5th. You can get your tickets at cbn.com/tickets. Stay with us, your Friday Faithful. It's coming up next. Time now for your Friday Faithful. I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap another week together. We've all fallen, but don't you dare stay down and give up. Get up, fix your focus and your faith back on God. He still has his hands on you. He still has his eyes on you. Your faith may have wavered, your mind may have wandered, but God's hand is steady and his heart has not grown heavy. He loves you, he wants you, and he will use you again. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. Have a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. We'll see you back here come Monday.